Imagine living in a world where the most attractive women were the ones who looked pale, weak, exhausted, and dangerously thin. Sunken faces, fragile bodies, bright, flushed cheeks, dark, tired eyes. Not because they were unhealthy, but because they looked like they were dying beautifully. And strangely enough, this was once considered the peak of elegance. During the 1800s, one of the deadliest diseases in the world accidentally inspired an entire beauty standard. The disease was tuberculosis, and for a disturbing period of history, society became obsessed with the tuberculosis look. The ideal woman wasn't supposed to appear strong or energetic. She was supposed to look delicate, fragile, almost ghost-like. And honestly, when you compare it to modern beauty culture, the similarities become uncomfortable very quickly. Tuberculosis was terrifying. Before modern medicine, it killed millions of people across Europe and America. Victims slowly wasted away over months or even years. They became extremely thin, pale, weak, and feverish. But here's where history gets bizarre. Writers, artists, and wealthy society began romanticizing the appearance of people suffering from the illness. Why? Because tuberculosis created a look that many people associated with sensitivity, femininity, and sophistication. Victims often had pale skin from weakness, flushed cheeks from fever, thin bodies from weight loss, and large, shining eyes caused by exhaustion. Society somehow transformed these symptoms into beauty ideals. The look became known as the consumptive chic aesthetic. Yes, a deadly disease literally influenced fashion and attractiveness. At the time, pale skin already carried social meaning. If someone had very pale skin, it often suggested they were wealthy enough to avoid outdoor labor. Working-class people spent more time in the sun, so tanned skin became associated with physical labor and poverty. Tuberculosis intensified this obsession. Suddenly, extreme paleness looked refined and artistic. Women used powders and makeup to make themselves appear lighter. Some intentionally avoided sunlight completely. Others wore clothing designed to emphasize fragility and thinness. Beauty magazines praised women who looked delicate and weak. And the darker truth? Many women began starving themselves to achieve the fashionable thin frame associated with the illness. Sound familiar? Because more than a century later, society is still fighting unrealistic body standards built around looking effortlessly thin. The ideal woman during this era wasn't supposed to look powerful. She was supposed to look vulnerable. Poets described women as ethereal. Paintings portrayed them almost like fading spirits. Fragility became romanticized as feminine beauty. Even coughing softly into a handkerchief became strangely associated with elegance in literature and theater. That sounds insane today, but at the time, illness itself became aestheticized. And once enough movies, books, and advertisements repeat an image, society starts accepting it as normal. That's how beauty standards evolve. Not always through logic, but through repetition. As the tuberculosis aesthetic spread, fashion adapted to match it. Corsets became tighter to create extremely thin waists. Dresses emphasized narrow shoulders and frail body shapes. Makeup styles focused on pale complexions with reddish cheeks to imitate feverish skin. Some women even used dangerous cosmetic ingredients to achieve the effect. Certain whitening products contained toxic chemicals like lead or arsenic. These could damage skin and slowly poison users over time. Think about that. People were risking real illness to imitate the appearance of another illness. And honestly, modern beauty culture sometimes feels dangerously similar. Extreme dieting, unrealistic filters, Photoshop, cosmetic procedures, endless pressure to appear naturally flawless. The methods changed, but the psychology stayed surprisingly familiar. If social media existed in the 1800s, the tuberculosis aesthetic probably would have exploded online. Because the trend was built around the exact things that drive modern beauty culture: unattainable standards, romanticized suffering, performative elegance, looking effortlessly beautiful while secretly struggling. Even today, people often praise appearances connected to exhaustion and unhealthy lifestyles. Dark circles become model looks. Extreme thinness becomes discipline. Overworked appearances become grind culture. Sometimes society still confuses suffering with attractiveness. That's why this history feels weirdly modern. As medical knowledge improved, people stopped romanticizing tuberculosis. The truth was impossible to ignore. It wasn't poetic beauty. It was a deadly disease that destroyed millions of lives, devastated families, and filled sanatoriums with suffering patients. Once people understood the horror behind it, the illusion of beautiful sickness collapsed. Healthier bodies became fashionable again, but beauty standards never stopped chasing extremes. They simply changed form. Every generation thinks its beauty trends make sense, but history often proves how strange they were. People once admired the look of illness. Later, some used radioactive skincare. Companies even made women feel ashamed of body hair. And today, filters create faces and bodies that barely exist in real life. So the question is simple: are we repeating history again? This story isn't just strange historical trivia. It shows how easily beauty standards can control people. They change with culture, media, technology, and profit. And when society rewards a certain look, people may harm themselves trying to achieve it. That's what happened during the tuberculosis beauty era. People copied the look of sickness, not because it was healthy, but because it was admired. And today, with filters, editing, and impossible beauty trends, maybe we're still repeating the same mistake in a modern way.